The wine hit before the words did. A sharp sweep of Kayla's hand, a careless flick meant to dismiss a joke, and the red splashed down the front of my blouse, cold, sticky, instant. The chatter around us kept going. Someone laughed at a different table. Someone else clinked a glass, but our circle went quiet. "Oh, Kayla?" said, not really looking. "Oops." I didn't move. Not right away. I watched the red settle into the fabric. Watched it crawl like it had a purpose. Then I folded the linen napkin from my lap, dabbed once, twice slow. I looked at Brian. He didn't speak. Didn't flinch. He stared at his drink like it held the answer to a question no one had asked. James's voice cut through the silence, warm and oblivious. "So, Lorraine, how's life at that beautiful $1.5 million place of yours? Still got that killer view of the mountains from the kitchen?" Someone dropped a fork. Kayla turned sharply. "What house?" Brian blinked fast. "James, what are you talking about?" I didn't answer. I smoothed the napkin once more across the front of my shirt. Still damp. Still stained. Still here. James didn't seem to notice the tension. He laughed, picked up a fresh flute from a passing tray. "The Craftsman on Sterling Heights. I stayed there last time I was in town. Remember that guest room's softest pillows I've had in years?" I nodded once barely. Kayla's voice rose. "That's not her house. She rents. The place near the university. I used to rent," I said, my tone flat even. "That was a while ago." Brian's jaw tightened. "You never said anything." "I wasn't asked," I said simply. James clinked glasses, with someone walking past. Oblivious. Still. Smart move. That neighborhood's appreciated like crazy. You got in at the right time. I didn't correct him. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was sharp. Final. A verdict. Brooke, the bride-to-be, tried to restart a conversation, but her voice cracked halfway through. The cousin next to me shifted suddenly, too interested in the shrimp cocktail. Kayla wiped her hand on a napkin, still refusing to meet my eyes. Brian stayed quiet. His ears were pink. No one brought me another shirt. No one asked if I was cold. I stayed where I was. Red stain spreading like ivy. When the group laughed again, it was 3 feet away. I picked up my glass, sipped slowly, let them stew. Let the stain stay. The door slammed. Shoes kicked off. Kayla's voice hit the hallway before I even made it to the kitchen. "You stood there like a statue," she snapped, tossing her purse on the counter. "You could have at least said it wasn't true. You let James run his mouth and made us look ridiculous." I rinsed the last plate. The water was too hot, but I didn't flinch. The sponge moved slow, steady, circular. I set the plate in the rack. Kayla kept going. "Who talks about money like that in front of family? And in front of Brooks people? They think we're mooching off some rich old lady now." Brian walked in behind her. Didn't speak until she paused for breath. "If you're under our roof," he said, voice flat, "be useful. Or quiet." My hand stopped mid-dry. The dish towel stilled against the glass. I didn't look up. I inhaled, once deep and low, then let it go slow. I folded the towel neatly, set it by the sink. Behind me, Kayla scoffed. "She's doing that thing again. The whole martyr routine. Like we're the bad guys." Brian didn't respond. I wiped the counter. The motion calmed me. I gathered the mail into a stack, but one envelope caught my eye, thick white from the mortgage company. It had my name on it. I slid it to the bottom of the pile. No one noticed. Kayla was halfway into another complaint when her phone buzzed. "It's Brooke. Be right back." She disappeared down the hallway. Brian stood by the fridge, arms crossed. "You could have shut him down, but you didn't." I met his eyes. "No," I said. I didn't. He held my gaze a second longer, then turned and walked out. I folded the towel again. Edges even, hands steady. then I placed it down like I was setting something final. The mail stayed untouched on the counter. I walked in with the cornbread still warm in the dish. The dining table was full. Plates, glasses, mimosas, laughter already in motion, but no chair for me. I stood for a moment waiting. Nothing. Kayla looked up from the far end. "Oh, we didn't think you'd come." She smiled like it was reasonable, like it was my fault for showing up on time to something I was never invited to, yet always expected to serve. No one moved. I walked to the counter, set the cornbread down, and plated some fruit. No one offered me a spot. No one made room. I held the plate in my hand and stood back to the sink like a waitress on break. They passed dishes. They reached for salt. They gossiped about Brooke's honeymoon plans. I chewed slowly, balanced my coffee cup between fingers, and listened. Across the room, a high chair sat empty, reserved, decorated with a tiny pink ribbon for Kayla's niece, who wouldn't be arriving for another hour. A seat saved for someone who wasn't even born when I bought the table they now dined around. I shifted the plate in my hand, fingers aching from the angle. Still, I said nothing. James arrived late as always. He scanned the room, caught my eye. No words. He just walked over, grabbed a stool from the corner, and sat next to me, not offering it, just choosing my company. His presence cut through the noise. Kayla noticed. So did Brian. But neither said a word. Brian didn't look at me once. Not even when I refilled my coffee. Not even when I leaned to serve someone a second helping. His eyes stayed on his fork. I didn't need a seat. I had a view. Kayla slammed her phone onto the table. "We need to talk about money." I was rinsing my cup. I set it down, turned, waited. She didn't sit. She paced. Short steps. Tight jaw. You're sitting on retirement funds like they're museum pieces. Meanwhile, we're trying to build something, as a family. Brian leaned against the counter, arms crossed, nodding once. Not at me, at her. "You could help," he said. "At least co-sign the refinance. It's our house. That's not a lot to ask." Their house. My lips pressed together. Hard. I felt the muscle pull along my jaw. I looked at Brian and didn't see my son. I saw a mouth repeating words that weren't his. "I've already paid off what I needed to," I said. The room went still for half a beat. Kayla blinked. Paid off what? Brian frowned. "What does that mean?" I picked up the cup again, carried it to the sink, rinsed it twice, set it upside down on the towel. I didn't answer. Kayla laughed sharp. "See? This is what I mean. Vague, dramatic. You act like you're holding some big secret." I dried my hands. Slow, careful. "You don't even need the money," she went on. "You live here. We cover the utilities, the groceries. You should be grateful." Brian cleared his throat. "Mom, we're just saying, if you're part of this household, you should contribute." I met his eyes again. Held them. "I have," I said. He looked away first. Kayla rolled her eyes. "This is pointless." "She's dead weight." She grabbed her phone and walked out, muttering the words again like she wanted them to stick to the walls. Dead weight. I stood there after the door closed, counted my breaths. 1, 2, 3. My hands didn't shake. Not yet. Brian shifted. "You didn't have to make it weird." "I didn't," I said. "You did." He opened his mouth, then shut it, picked up his keys, left without another word. The house settled. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere down the hall, a door closed. I reached for the mail still stacked on the counter. My name stared back at me from the top envelope. I slid it free and held it there, unopened, feeling the weight of the paper before I finally decided where to take it next. I pushed open the heavy glass door, walked in, sat down. Lorraine, Ms. Patel, greeted me, already reaching for the file. I pulled everything from the 2016 transfer. Nothing's changed. She flipped it open. Crisp pages. Clear lines. My name centered, typed in black. No co-owners, no liens, no conditions. Still solely in your name, she said. As of June 14th, 2016. I nodded. I want updated certified copies. 3, please, and digital backups. Notarized. Done, she said without hesitation. Want me to email you the PDFs today or just hand you a flash drive? Both. She smiled. You're preparing. I waited too long not to, I said. The printer started. I watched the first sheet come out the title page. My name, my property, my home. A sharp breath escaped my chest. It left slow. Clean. I hadn't realized I'd been holding it. Ms. Patel slid the signature forms across the desk. Sign here to confirm receipt, and that nothing has changed since last title certification. My fingers steadied as I picked up the pen. Not a tremble. Not anymore. She watched me sign. Her tone softened. Still want James listed as your secondary contact? I looked up. Yes, I said. He sees clearly. She sealed each page in its own folder, then tucked the whole set into a red document envelope. Where do you want this stored in my possession? I said. But I'd like one set, held in escrow under the same designation as before. She nodded. Red folder. Label market backstop. I zipped it into my bag. The weight of it changed everything. Not heavy, solid. Ms. Patel stood to walk me out, but I paused at the door. One more thing, I said. I'd like a notarized letter confirming that the mortgage was paid in full from my Helix account in 2018. Just one paragraph. Plain language. She didn't ask why. Give me until this afternoon, she said. I thanked her and stepped back into the hallway. Outside, the sun had shifted. Lower. Sharper. I pulled my coat tighter and walked the block without checking my phone. Back at the house, the lights were on. Through the front window, I saw Kayla on the couch, her laptop open. Brian wasn't home yet. I moved quietly through the door, careful not to disturb anything. Upstairs in my room, I opened the drawer and removed the older copy of the title, faded creased. I replaced it with the new one. Then I zipped the red folder into the lining of my travel bag and slid it under the bed. Kayla slid the folder across the table like it was nothing. Just routine, she said. A financial review. The bank wants everything clean. Brian stood behind her, arms crossed, watching my face. I opened the folder, pages clipped, tabs labeled in bright ink, income, assets, authorization. My eyes moved slowly. I didn't rush. What do you need from me? I asked. Kayla leaned forward. Just your signature. We'll handle the rest. I nodded. Once, small, agreeable. Okay, I said. Tell me what to sign. Brian relaxed. Just a fraction. I saw it. The release. The relief that came with thinking something was finally going their way. Kayla pushed a legal pad toward me. A checklist in her handwriting. Boxes, arrows, notes in the margins. I took a pen and copied the list onto my own paper. Careful. Exact. My handwriting, neat, deliberate. Authorization form. Financial disclosure. Deed adjustment. Mortgage refinance acknowledgement. Is that all I asked? For now, Kayla said. We'll schedule a notary later. I smiled. It didn't reach my eyes. It didn't need to. Of course, I said. Just let me review everything first. Brian frowned. It's standard. I know, I said. I just like to read. Kayla rolled her eyes. You always do this. I folded the paper once and slipped it into the inside pocket of my jacket. The fabric brushed my wrist, grounded me. Send me the digital copies, I said. I'll sign once I've looked them over. Brian hesitated. You trust us, right? I met his eyes, held them. Long enough for the question to feel heavy. I do, I said. That's why I'm taking my time. Kayla snapped the folder shut. Fine. They left the room together. Their voices picked up down the hall. Low, urgent. I didn't strain to hear. Later that night, after the house went quiet, I pulled the paper back out, laid it flat on the bed, opened my laptop. The documents came through one by one. I read every line. Halfway down the third form, I stopped. The deed transfer. My last name was wrong. One letter missing. Subtle. Easy to miss. Enough to make it invalid. I stared at it for a long moment. Then I smiled. This time alone. They weren't careful. They were confident. That was the difference. I closed the laptop, folded the paper again, placed it back in my jacket. My phone buzzed. I typed one line. No explanation. No emotion. They're making their move. I set the phone down and turned off the light, already planning where I would be when they tried to finish it. Brian shut the fridge with more force than necessary. Milk sloshed. He didn't look at me. Just so you know, he said you don't have to come to the party. I dried my hands on the towel. Oh, it's mostly Kayla's side of the family, he said. You know how formal they are. I see, I said. He adjusted his shirt collar, glanced at his phone. We didn't want you to feel out of place. I nodded once. Of course. He didn't wait for more. He left the room, calling out something to Kayla upstairs. I turned back to the table. The envelope was still there. Cream paper gold border. Addressed to me. Not the house, not the family, just me. Lorraine Fielding. I opened it slowly. The RSVP card slipped out. 2 options. Accepts with pleasure. Declines with regret. I picked up my pen. Wrote in neat, firm strokes. Attending. No hesitation. No regret. The pen left a small indent where I pressed too hard. I didn't mind. I placed the card back in its envelope. Sealed it. Walked it to the mailbox down the street, ignoring the sharp wind biting at my sleeves. Back inside, I set the kettle on. My phone lit up with a message. James, I'll see you there. And I've got the folder if you need it. I stared at the screen. The words sat calmly. No pressure. No expectation. Just readiness. I sipped my coffee slowly. The warmth spread through my chest. Later that afternoon, I opened my closet. 3 dresses hung in the center. I brushed my fingers across each one. Blue, floral, slate. I pulled the dark slate dress from the hanger and laid it flat on the bed. I didn't need to try it on. It still fit. It always had. I placed it back in the garment bag and zipped it up. Then I turned to my nightstand and opened the drawer. The red folder marked backstop sat exactly where I had left it. I touched the corner once, then closed the drawer again. The dress, the folder, the RSVP all set. Let them think I wasn't coming. Let them think I was too small to matter. They'd built a whole future inside a house I owned. I was done pretending not to notice. I stepped through the double doors alone. Champagne towers. Soft jazz. Fake laughter already thick in the air. The kind of event where people call you dear and forget your name 5 minutes later. James spotted me first. He didn't wave. He didn't whisper. He raised his glass loud and clear. Well, if it isn't the Queen of Sterling Heights herself, Lorraine, how's life in that $1.5 million home treating you? The room stilled. Forks hovered. Napkins froze mid-fold. Someone turned off the speaker just in time for every syllable to land. Brian stood near the cake table. Kayla beside him, one hand still mid-gesture as if she'd been directing staff. Both stared straight at me. I didn't answer. Didn't need to. James stepped closer. Still smiling. Still got that mountain view right. God, that kitchen. You redid the backsplash, didn't you? Last time I stayed, I remember thinking you really made that place sing. What year did you buy it again? 2016. He was performing. But not for me. For them. I brought the wine glass to my lips. Smooth. Steady. Not a drop spilled. Hell of a job paying that off, Solo James added. Not many people walk away from a mortgage in under 5 years. Smart move with the signing bonus. Kayla blinked. Once, twice. Brian's lips parted, but no sound came. No one laughed now. No one changed the subject. No one interrupted. I let it sit. The weight of the truth not shouted, not flaunted, just placed. Right in front of them. My son opened his mouth. Closed it. I turned without a word. Walked toward the bar. One step at a time. No rush. Behind me, I heard James say to no one in particular, "Still the best guest room I've ever slept in. She even had fresh towels and everything." A waiter offered me a refill. I nodded, held out my glass. The bartender added a lemon twist. I removed it. I preferred things clean. Brian's voice came too quiet, too late. "Mom?" I didn't stop walking. Let him follow if he had something real to say. Let them all sit with what they just learned, without needing me to explain a thing. The suitcase hit the bed hard. Kayla shoved clothes inside without folding. Fast. Angry. Drawers slammed. Hangers clattered. The zipper screamed when she pulled it too far. Brian stood in the doorway, face tight. "You humiliated us." I didn't answer. You let him say all that he went on, in front of everyone. You knew what he was doing. I leaned against the counter, crossed my arms, waited. "You made us look like liars," Kayla snapped from the bedroom, "like thieves." I watched Brian now. Really watched him. "You did that yourself," I said quietly. His eyes flashed. "That's not fair." I nodded once. "It is." Silence filled the space between us. Not the kind that begs to be fixed, the kind that settles. "When were you planning to tell us?" he asked. I tilted my head. "Tell you what?" "That it was your house," he said. "That we were living there," I finished. "You knew where you were living." "That's not what I meant." "I know," I said. Kayla stormed out, phone in hand. "My mother says we can stay with her. For now." "For now," I repeated. Brian ran a hand through his hair. "This didn't have to happen like this." I looked past him toward the hallway, the rooms they'd filled without asking. "When were you planning to move out?" The question landed clean. No heat, no drama. He stared at me. "What?" When I said again, "Not if." Kayla laughed, sharp and disbelieving. "You're kicking us out, I'm asking," I said. "So I can plan." She stared like she'd never seen me before. Maybe she hadn't. They went back to packing. The noise resumed. Louder now. Forced. I turned back to the counter. The guest list lay there. Cream paper. Names written in Kayla's careful script. I picked up a pen and scanned it once. Most of them hadn't looked at me all night. I circled 2 names. Just 2. The only people who'd asked if I was cold. If I wanted another drink. If I was okay. I set the pen down. James's card sat near the edge of the counter. A short note on the back. "You call, I'll handle the paperwork." I folded it and slipped it into my pocket. The suitcase zipped shut. Kayla dragged it toward the door. Brian lingered. "You don't have to do this." I met his eyes. I already did. After they went quiet, I opened the drawer by the door. Took out the spare keys. Then the one by the laundry room. Then the extra set from the bowl on the shelf. I lined them up on the counter, listening to the house finally start to breathe again. I fill the kettle. Turn on the stove. Wait. The house is quiet in a way it hasn't been for years. No footsteps above me. No doors opening and closing. No voices negotiating space that was never theirs to manage. I scoop the coffee. Level it with the back of the spoon. Pour water when it's ready. Slow. Careful. I set 1 mug on the counter. Just one. The pour begins. The stream is clean, unbroken. My hand doesn't shake. Not once. I watch the surface rise, stop at the line I know by memory, and turn the kettle away, without spilling a single drop. I breathe out. I hadn't noticed how shallow my breaths had been until now. I carry the mug to the table and sit. The chair doesn't scrape. The floor doesn't creak. I wrap both hands around the cup and let the warmth settle into my palms. On the counter, the red folder rests inside the fireproof bag. Sealed. Untouched. Exactly where I placed it last night. It doesn't call to me anymore. It doesn't need to. I take the first sip alone. The taste is familiar, grounded, mine. Outside, a trunk slams. Once, then again. The sound travels through the kitchen window and fades. I don't look up. I don't count how long it takes. I don't listen for voices. I sip again. For a moment, I think of the years I tried to explain myself, the dinners where I waited for questions that never came, the conversations that turned away from me before I finished a sentence. The way silence used to feel like a punishment. It doesn't anymore. I stand, rinse the mug, set it upside down on the towel. I fold the towel once, place it back where it belongs. The house holds the quiet without strain. No echoes, no resistance. I walk to the window and open it just enough to let the morning air in. The light settles across the counter, across the folder, across the place where the extra keys used to be. I close the window, lock it. The sound is soft, final. Then I turn back to the kitchen, already knowing what comes next, and move forward without needing to say a word.